I'm Trinity Anderson, producer and narrator of Plog Vlog. Today, after crossing Wisemans Ferry and then heading up to the Blue Mountains, we're exploring whether people value comfort more than wellness. I'll let my foster father explain.
That's the Wiseman Ferry crossing down there. We've just come across that from the Lower McDonald and we're heading to Katoomba today. And the question that I'm thinking about along the way is, do people in my country value comfort more or do they value wellness more? The reason why this is important is because this channel is trying to promote people to seek discomfort, seek difficult things for the purpose of creating antifragility in their bodies and minds. So if people value wellness more, maybe they'll be willing to actually do difficult things rather than seek out comfort all the time if they see the value in it. Whereas if people value comfort more, then they're more likely to take the gifts of the AI Santa than to seek out things that are likely to promote mental and physical wellness. Having just mentioned the AI Santa, I really should review what that is because it's been a while since we filmed the Christmas video. The AI Santa is the concept that AI will give us everything we want and need eventually. And there are some experts like Govetts who believe that that'll happen within a decade or so. If that happens and AI removes all struggle and all need to strive in the world, then will we as humans make the choice to seek out adversity just because adversity is good for us? Let's see what the research says.
My foster father is touching on the tension between hedonic well-being, seeking immediate pleasure and comfort, and eudaimonic well-being, which relies on purpose and effort. If AI eventually removes all cognitive and physical friction from our environment, we risk entering a world where our bodies and brains never have to adapt and improve. It could end up being a life of constant atrophy. Before we look closer at that evolutionary trap, it's time for the usual intermission story about my mother. It was late August in 1993, and my mother Liz and her childhood friend David had just escaped the exhausting bargaining culture of Pamukkale in what was then called Turkey. They boarded a long-distance coach heading towards Bergama, hoping for a quiet transit, but quickly discovered exactly why these regional buses were locally notorious. The driver treated the winding, mountainous roads less like a public transport route and more like a high-stakes racetrack. The coach careened down steep hills at terrifying speeds. From her window seat, Liz watched the speedometer needle bounce completely off the dial, pushing well past 120 kilometers per hour. As the driver aggressively forced oncoming cars onto the shoulder and blindly overtook slower vehicles on tight corners, the two friends handled the intense stress in completely different ways. David naturally retreated entirely into his own head. He stared out the window, quietly philosophizing about global overpopulation as a way to mentally distance himself from the immediate threat of a head-on collision. Liz, however, stayed hyper-focused on the physical reality. Gripping her armrests until her knuckles turned white, she remained locked in sheer survival mode, hyper-vigilant to every sway of the chassis. The climax of this white-knuckle ride happened as they tore through the city of Izmir. The sprawling metropolis was choked by a heavy, suffocating blanket of smog. For Liz, the contrast was incredibly stark. The adrenaline-fueled danger inside the speeding bus, set against the slow, quiet environmental disaster just outside the glass. Miraculously, they arrived in Bergama in one piece. Stepping off the bus onto solid ground felt like a profound luxury. Bergama was quiet, slightly off the main trail, and blessedly free of both tourists and hawkers. After surviving the death bus, the simple peace of an empty street felt like a massive victory.
So it's the following morning, we're back at Govetts Leap in the Blue Mountains of Australia. And I'm here to, which you probably can't see me. I'm here to explore that question about whether Australians are more interested in wellness or comfort. Now, despite the fact that Australians are perceived by themselves and the world as being sporty, fit people, only a small proportion of the population actually meet even the minimum activity guidelines. Let's look at the reasons why that might be. Now, one of them is there seems to be an embracing of like a softness culture, like treating yourself softly, going all the way to the point of being embracing, it seems, a thing called, what is it, bed rot, where you sit in a bed, lay in a bed for hours or even days, and seeing that as a good thing, something that is good for you because the rest of the world is so stressful. From looking at the research, there seems to be a comfort trap that comes from an evolutionary mismatch. And that evolutionary mismatch results from our brain having evolved in an environment where challenging things were common, where stressful things were common, and we needed to be able to rest intensely, to be able to recover, to survive, to move on, to cope with the next thing that we're going to have to struggle with. So in a modern society where we have created such comfort, we still have that ancient brain that pushes us towards resting and resting and resting because we think that we're going to have to cope with some life-threatening event. I don't know that I'm explaining that real well, but that's a great sunrise. So how do we resolve this evolutionary mismatch where it's so hard to actually find motivation to do challenging and difficult things? Maybe we're going about it the wrong way. Throughout this chapter, it's occurred to me that maybe instead of trying to find the motivation to do the challenging things, what we should find is challenging things that are internally motivating. For example, hobbies that would actually get us out of bed in the morning. I have no problems getting out of bed in the morning because creating these Plog vlog episodes is so internally motivating that I don't even want to stay in bed. I struggle to stay in bed. And here's me thinking that I wouldn't find.
My foster father just described an evolutionary mismatch, where our biology still demands we conserve energy for scarce times, leading to delay discounting, which means preferring immediate rest over long-term vitality. Relying purely on willpower to fight millions of years of evolution usually fails. Instead, as he notes, aligning physical effort with intrinsic motivation, like a passionate hobby, bypasses that resistance entirely. Our bodies are designed for antifragility. They require the friction of safe adversity to remain robust. If we blindly accept a culture of extreme comfort, embrace bed rot, or wait for an AI Santa to remove all effort, we risk deep physical and mental decline. To push back against this comfort trap, find one small moment of intentional friction today. Park at the furthest end of the car park, take the stairs instead of the lift, or walk outside without a jacket for 5 minutes to let your body adapt to the chill. Maybe you could go further by starting a mentally and physically challenging hobby that might be similar to what we do with Plog Vlog. By the way, if you want to explore deeper into these concepts, Then we've created a YouTube channel called Study Notes that contains the AI-generated podcasts that my foster father uses to prepare for filming these episodes. These play against the backdrop of B-roll footage he films while out in the field. On screen now, the next episode is hovering on the left, and our compilations are waiting on the right. And please pick up 5.